Well, here we are. We're back with stories, life stories with Patricia Farris. And I'm David Livianu. Believe it or not, we have a marathon going on here. Patricia just loves to explain and tell her stories. So it's the same day, only a few minutes later. We're following story number 5. This is going to be story number 6. We're going to talk about your 4 children. You mentioned Paul, Bill, Patty, and Laura. Talk to us. Let's wait for the truck to fly by. Now that we know the names of your 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls, multi-millionaire family, as they call it.
Not really.
Yes, well, maybe not in the financial sense, but in a much higher sense. Talk to us about whatever comes to your mind. Doesn't have to be the order of birth or chronology, whatever you would like to start with, how the children came about and how you raised them, anything that you want to share with us.
As my children were very young children, their father was a pastor, and so they grew up attending church frequently, and they never complained about it. Somehow we were able to have a great life with our children because they never rebelled against us. I never spent a night, never in my life, worrying about where my child was late at night. Never one night. We always enjoyed doing everything together. Everything we did together. And I'm 88 now, I have 4 children. My oldest son and his wife had 13 children. My son Bill, and his wife Sheree had, Paul's wife is named Sue, and they had 8 children. Bill and his wife Sheree had 13 children. Dr. Larry Cosner and Patty, my daughter, had 8 children, and my daughter Laura and her husband Carl have 3 children. So
and now you have 60 great grandchildren and growing. That's extraordinary.
32 grandchildren and 60 great grandchildren.
That's a dynasty. And it all started with an airplane flight when you and your dearly departed husband Frederick met on a double date where he was with
another girl and I was with another guy.
Boy. That's an amazing story.
Anyway, so but after several years of being pastor of as a minister in a church, we became acquainted.
It's the sound. We're in a live set here. This is not a Hollywood set. This is the Highway 14.
Highway 14.
That goes all the way from Los Angeles to Mammoth. We're kind of halfway, probably, right? So tell us about your children. Your husband was moving around a lot, traveling, with his ministry.
Right. One thing he did, he excelled in helping start new churches. So he was called upon a lot of times to go help get new churches started.
Right.
So, but my kids they loved moving. They didn't ever mind moving. They enjoyed finding.
So you traveled almost like army brats.
Sort of like that.
I got you. But you were the stay-at-home mom. You took care of the home.
I did.
I understand. That makes a lot of sense.
So, it's a full-time job being a minister's wife too. So, anyway, after several years in the pastorate, we became acquainted with a missionary group they were called New Tribes Mission. It was a New Tribes Mission. New Tribes meant they went into the tribal areas to people who had never been reached.
I see.
And
like real Indian tribes, is that
right? And there was such a fascinating, dedicated group. Sometimes in your journey you end up being led into situations where it helps shape you for your work.
Tell us what shaped you and your husband.
These people lived totally by faith.
By faith.
By faith, they didn't receive salaries. And
You know about the missionaries,
the
your husband and
missionaries-
everybody.
the missionaries that we became acquainted with, that we just fell in love with them, and they taught us something, that the life of faith, that when God calls you to something, He provides for you.
Right. Excuse me.
And sure.
It's the sun a little bit.
In a way that we
My
had never,
apologies.
in a way that we had never quite experienced
Right.
before.
The thought was not about making a living. The thought was about being in service to
Right.
others.
And you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and these things shall be added. God says, you take care of my work, and I'll take care of you.
Right.
And they practice that. We've heard that a lot, but these people literally practice that. And there were several young couples, and they were just so enduring, and they so dedicated, and they were such. And you know, we saw something in them that we lacked,
Which was?
which was that willingness to step out totally by faith.
Right.
So we joined up with that group, and we went into their training, and it was very helpful. My kids loved it.
So your husband met these missionaries that were giving of themselves, stepping out by faith.
By faith, and their needs are always met. And we watched these people just like they would start out going from a place that they like going from the mission encampment and going to some place they were supposed to go for teaching, doing some teaching or something, and they would, we would see them leave, and they had very little money.
Right.
But nothing ever bothered them. They just went because and their needs were always met.
The mission was to.
But they were training to go into these tribal areas.
Right.
You probably I won't get into that, but there's some great stories about.
Tell me the idea.
The missionaries that go into these, would go into areas where cannibalistic people.
Seriously, but not in the United States.
No, but in the foreign fields, tribal areas.
Right, South America.
Colombia,
Yes.
and
That would be a fascinating concept. So your husband actually traveled there?
No, we didn't. We went in through the training, but then the doctor recommended that my husband not go to a foreign field because he had the kind of heart condition that as long as you were close and could get help, you'd be okay.
Right,
but
in the U.S.
They
recommended
that we not go there.
I understand. Well, it's a very interesting.
But it was an interesting part of our lives. But it also drew our children. So we came out from being the pastor of the church to this mission that we all really gained so much from. And then so at that point, we decided that whatever we did, now Paul by this time was out of high school.
Right.
Bill and Patty were in grade school, high school, and Laura just came along about that.
So we're
time.
talking about the early 70s.
Right. Actually, the mid '60s to the early '70s.
That's right.
So we decided at that time. Our family decided. We didn't know where our journey was going to take us, but we knew we were meeting our calling, and so we decided that whatever we did, we were going to do together. Well, that was in the mid '60s, and here we are in 2018, and we're still together doing what we do together.
Well, I think we mentioned that in our introduction, talking about doing the right thing from the beginning. And if a child, as I mentioned to you, I happen to be of Jewish faith, and the rabbis tell parents that if you put a child on the right path when he's 2-3 years old, that child will be on the same path of staying together, being faithful, being kind and moral when he's an old person.
Train a child. The Jewish teachings train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from it. That's in the scriptures, the Old Testament.
That's right.
And it works.
Yes. Wait just for 1 second. We have the natural environment here. So.
And my husband, like I told you, was very musical. So we started out our four children, and our three children. Laura wasn't old enough yet, but our three children and my husband and I started singing together, and we would go to different churches and sing together.
Do you have any recordings?
We do.
Well, we need to get that into our stories. That's going to be the subject of my singing. Our family sings, and we're
So
gonna.
now we have now my husband, like I told you, we lost him in 2001, but the family still sings together.
What kind of songs do you sing?
We sing mostly patriotic songs.
American songs.
Right, and
Like God Bless America.
Right, and we are frequently asked to sing the national anthem at different events. We're going to be singing that at the first day of the celebration of the 75th anniversary of China Lake at Community Day.
When
on
is that gonna?
the 28th of April.
Oh, that's a Saturday.
Out on the base. So the family's frequently asked to sing at different events. And
I would love to be a guest and listen to you rendering.
It's with it's open to the whole community. They're going to open the gates for people to come into the base and participate in the celebration.
That's a wonderful. Well, it just so happens that the day before, I have our children at the charter school where I teach music. They invited me to start a music program this year, and the children. I wrote a song that's going to be the alma mater for the school, for the charter school, and the song is called "Soar Eagle Soar," and it also celebrates the school, but it celebrates the founder of the school, Elsa Hennings. So the song is part of that. So perhaps, I don't know if you have enough time, maybe on that Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock to come and listen to the children at the school present the song to Elsa as a surprise. And
that'd be a good story for the paper, actually.
Well, thank you very much. And the song reflects the spirit of this town. I try to incorporate elements of patriotism with the melodies and a trumpet call as an introduction and some drums. And because Elsa's background is Northern European, German, Austrian, Dutch, and all that, I tried to make the melody reflect that kind of flavor of German music, but of course with the patriotic feel at the end that this is the American way of life, the way children are taught in Ridgecrest. So I'm going to share the lyrics with you, and hopefully they will miss it.
Yes, I would like to attend that. I must put that on my calendar.
Thank you very much.
We haven't brought this up, but I do publish the weekly newspaper.
I know. Oh, yes,
So
that's another conversation. As
I
the
do-
editor in charge of
The
the
publisher
name of your paper, please.
is the News Review.
The News Review of Ridgecrest.
It's a weekly paper, so
It's a weekly
we just
paper.
do local news and try to keep people informed about what's happening in their town.
I've been reading your paper, and your whole family is deeply involved in running
Right.
this.
It's a family-owned newspaper.
It's a family-owned newspaper, and we're going to make that the subject of another story, how you started this.
Right.
But for now, I'd like to maybe conclude, if you can tell me in a few words, each one of your children is destined, as we all know, everything is predestined. Tell us about each one of the children, what stands out about him or her in a few words. We have Paul,
It's kind of
Bill, Patty,
it's
and
kind of an
Laura.
interesting and difficult maybe to
Encapsulate.
yeah, but when it's like our path moved from being in the confines of the walls of a church to come out of the church and set that same teaching and that life forward in a community.
Well, remember what you told me in one of the stories yesterday, at the end of story number 2, you reminded me of a song of David, I think, with the walls.
As the mountains are round about Jerusalem, so is my love round about you. But what brought that to my thinking was you were speaking about when you drove on Highway 14. It was like driving through Negev.
Into the Negev desert, and I happened to have an Israeli CD with me, and I put the music. I said, "No, this is surreal. Am I in Israel in the Negev? No, I'm in Ridgecrest, the beautiful Mojave Desert."
But there's a lot of similarity.
Absolutely.
And so we kind of call this our Jerusalem, our city of peace.
Well, that's not bad. I think people should know that Ridgecrest, this whole area,
And this community has a flavor of its own. Our county sheriff says that his
What's his name?
Donnie Youngblood. and Kern County Sheriff, and he says when I talk to law enforcement people and other, he says they don't believe me when I tell them about Ridgecrest.
Right.
He says low crime, and he talks about being such a patriotic community.
It is
and,
very patriotic.
and
I
he
can
says
guarantee you that.
And when we do the Parade of 1,000 Flags,
In
it
September.
honors God, family, and country.
That's absolutely
and so,
astonishing.
And it's so anyway, that's so we were kind of moved. Our pathway took us to not serving inside those four walls,
In a physical four-wall.
but to get outside the four walls and be a part of community.
So here's the
and plant-
nature's four walls.
And plant the seeds of love and kindness and giving and.
Which you're doing this abundantly from with a lot of people that I speak. They only have words of praise, and they're so happy that they live so close by, and you've touched so many lives. Can you tell me the names of these four walls here, these wonderful mountains? Can you remind our viewers what mountain?
This is a Sierra. This is the Sierra range right here behind us.
Behind us, and that would take us where? This is east or west?
This is west, and the sun is setting in the west
So,
right now.
so the ocean is in front of us.
Right.
Okay. So this is the Sierra Mountains.
Sierra. And then.
South.
Then.
No, east is the Death Valley.
The Argus Range is over there.
Right.
Argus Range, and that takes you toward Death Valley.
Right over there, Trona and Death Valley. And what's over here north?
The Sierra runs all the way.
So the Sierra surrounds us a little bit.
Yeah, you follow the Sierra all the way to Mount Whitney and beyond.
Right. And south?
And south, probably starts probably a little north of Red Rock Canyon.
Well, let's.
And then the Black Mountains are over there.
Those are south towards Victorville.
Toward the Rand area, Randsburg, toward Victorville. That's true.
Right. That's.
And then you can't see them from here, but beyond the Panamint, the Argus would be the Panamint Mountains.
The Panamint Mountains, yes.
So-
Yes, I traveled through Death Valley when I came here last year in July, coming from Vegas. I said, why should I take the easy road? I want to make it a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but we did it again when my family came to visit at Christmas. Again, we went back to Vegas through Death Valley. It was
quite an experience.
quite an experience. We took a lot of pictures. Anyway, so to conclude, we're going to continue on our next story. And again, we have a marathon interviewee here, Patricia Farris, with me, and she's going to conclude in the next story what stands out for each one of her children, Paul, Bill, Patty, and Laura.
All right.
So I thank you very much, Patricia, for allowing me to have a conversation with you, and I'm sure a lot of people will derive a lot of enjoyment and wisdom from your words. So we're going to stop right here. Today is Tuesday, April 17, 2018, in the Indian Valley, Wells Valley Range in Kern County. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, David.
Let me stop again.